I bought this camcorder just so I could talk to you. So I just wanted to tell you hi, and I love you, and I miss you. I'm very proud of you.
My wife got the call at home, and they said Holly was missing.
I mean, the Army's got a missing soldier. That's a big deal.
We're now inside Fort Bragg. One of those soldiers goes missing. They would just jump into action.
We didn't know if this is someone that had kidnapped Holly or killed Holly.
That's 146. That was her apartment.
We could tell, looking through the back window, that place had been burned. She was not in there.
Several knives were missing from the knife block.
Then, bizarrely, a second female soldier goes missing.
Megan Tuma, she was supposed to go to work, and she didn't show up for work.
Are they just missing? Did they succumb to foul play? Like, you just don't know.
The mirror had a very large insignia drawn on it. That insignia was the zodiac sign.
While there's this massive search for Holly, these mysterious letters come in
From a person purporting to be reenacting the Zodiac murders.
This could be the same killer.
My name is Jesse James. For 17 years, we have lived with the pain of losing our daughter, Holly. It's something that cannot be explained in words. Recently, I decided to write to the person responsible for taking Holly from us. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what I'm reaching for, but it just feels like I need to express my thoughts. Many, many people loved Holly, and you took her from all of us. I still have episodes of grief that I'm unable to control. Why did he choose Holly? I've decided to reach out and try to discover that.
So right now, I'm on my way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's one of the largest military bases in the world. Some say that this base right here is America's first line of defense. I'm investigating a mysterious disappearance of an Army nurse. Her name is Second Lieutenant Holly Lynn James. When Holly fails to show up for her shift at Womack Army Medical Center, it causes concern because it's something totally out of character for any soldier.
I was driving back to Fort Bragg from Iowa, and I received a text from a friend at work asking me when the last time I heard from Holly was. It was unusual. Holly was very dependable, and it's just, you know, being an Army officer, it was kind of unheard of to not show up for work.
Her coworkers went to her apartment, and when they got there, they found that she wasn't there, and it had been set on fire. So they called the police.
Pretty much as soon as Holly went missing, I heard about it. Our homicide team heard about it. It was very concerning. She had just sort of disappeared into thin air.
This is the face of the missing Fort Bragg soldier. Has not been seen since Wednesday.
Holly was driven by ambition, an unshakable work ethic, and felt a powerful call to serve her country.
A lot of us are military in our family, and she wanted to go out and do something great.
Holly's younger brother, Bo, a Marine himself, says that Holly had found her calling. As a nurse, were you pretty proud of her?
Absolutely, yeah. They're absolutely lifesavers.
She wanted to go to Iraq. I said, why would you want to go to Iraq, to the war zone? And she said, Dad, I just think I can help soldiers if I'm out there as a first responder in a war zone. I can do more good and help more soldiers.
Although Holly never served in combat and was ultimately stationed in the U.S., she was going places, and by age 23 had become a second lieutenant in the United States Army.
Even though I was a sergeant major, she was technically a higher rank than me starting out, you know, and I was pretty proud of that. They assigned her to the mother-baby ward at Womack. She just always wanted to be in the thick of things.
She was a floor nurse. She loved helping people all the time, and she really loved children.
Actually, at the time, Holly was raising a couple of children on her own, born from a relationship with her ex-boyfriend from her hometown of Dubuque, Iowa. Then in 2007, she met this 22-year-old Marine, Corporal John Wimunc, a combat engineer who was stationed along with her brother Bo at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. Colonel Kirk Cordova was John Wimunc's commanding officer.
He's a non-commissioned officer working towards being a sergeant and probably one of the best ranks in the Marine Corps. So he was very proficient, I can tell you that.
We deployed together. A lot of times we were looking for explosives or blowing things up. He was very good at our robots that we used for looking for explosives or setting them.
I was embedded in the war zone with the Marines in the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The level of danger was similar to what they experienced.
Marines continue to bring their heavy armor north.
And you realize just how intense their jobs really are. Why did you decide you wanted to introduce him to your sister, Holly?
Everything he said just seemed so funny. And I thought Holly deserved some humor in her life too.
She outranked him. She was an officer and he was a enlisted man, lower enlisted man.
The couple eventually married and shared an apartment together in Fayetteville, just outside the gates of Fort Bragg. Wimunc lived 2 hours away at Camp Lejeune, but would visit on weekends.
Holly and John seemed happy. They seemed like a good match. Being a dual military couple, it's just that extra layer of complication. You're just apart quite a bit.
During Wimunc's deployment, Holly bridged the distance with heartfelt video messages.
I bought this camcorder just so I could talk to you. So I just wanted to tell you hi, and I love you, and I miss you. I'm very proud of you.
There was a number of videos that she had made for him, you know, and they were sweet.
I'm pretty excited. You'll be here in 2 months.
She would talk about, you know, how much she loved him, how much she was looking forward to him coming back.
I didn't talk to you, so I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
Just being a sweet gal.
Together, they were rising in the military ranks, newly married, full of hope, but everything would change on that terrible night Holly went missing.
There is still no official word on the whereabouts and the fate of Army Lieutenant Holly Wimunc.
Investigators speak with Wimunc, who says that he was hours away at Camp Lejeune and knew nothing about Holly's whereabouts.
My wife got the call at home, and they said Holly was missing.
Police and federal investigators are on the case. Crime scene tape surrounds the apartment complex.
I began to see reports on the internet. The first report I saw was the police there, the military there, and they were towing her car away from the apartment complex.
There was a lot of interest locally and nationally about what had happened to Holly.
I had reporters on my doorstep, and they were asking if I knew anything about Holly, what could I tell them? I think that's when I realized it was bigger than what I was imagining.
At this point, we didn't know if this was a random act of violence that occurred, or if this is someone that had kidnapped Holly or killed Holly.
It's currently under investigation, and we're working with Fort Bragg trying to locate this person.
People are scared, people are worried, and they've got to go fast to try to find her.
It was all happening so rapidly, so quick.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did.
But your main job was really to find her.
I came here on a mission. I was scared to death because I was afraid of what I was going to find.
And when investigators are given the all clear to enter Holly's apartment,
there was a note that had survived the fire.
This letter. What
Or who will they uncover?
Oh, look at the cheeks
I
there.
know, huge cheeks, you know.
She's adorable.
Really very cute, huh? She was a little daddy's girl. She loved working at that hospital. I had no doubt she was going to stay in the Army because she loved it that much.
She found the job she loves.
Yep, she did.
She was up for the challenge. And from what I know, I think she did great.
She worked really hard so she'd be able to get a good life and a good job to be able to raise us better.
At the time of Holly's disappearance in July of 2008, her children, Harper, just 7, and 3-year-old Kendall, were far from the chaos, visiting their father back in Iowa.
We were not there when our mom went missing.
Authorities finally released the name and picture of Second Lieutenant Holly Wimunc, a nurse at Womack Army Medical Center.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did. You know, my first thought was go to the media like I've seen other families do. Ask Holly to surface, or if somebody's got Holly, ask them to bring her back, you know. And then I thought I should do that from Fayetteville. I should do that from Fort Bragg. Because if she is around there, you know, I can say, here I am, right here, and you can come to see me.
We're in constant contact with the family.
What exactly did the investigators tell you?
Well, that evening, when I got here and I met with the chief of detectives, one of the first questions I said is my daughter dead? And he said, we can't say that. He said, because that hasn't been proven. But he said, I can tell you we have grave, grave concern.
Once the flames were out, investigators combed through the charred remains of Holly's apartment, searching for anything the fire had not destroyed.
For the second day in a row, state and federal agents scoured the young woman's burned apartment.
The case would soon fall to Detective Jeff Locklear of the Fayetteville Police Department, the man tasked with uncovering what happened to Holly.
What was your reaction when you learned that the woman that's missing was a soldier?
My partner and I, we were surprised. At that time, you know, the whole city was kind of on edge.
How far are we from her apartment?
So as the crow flies, maybe a mile, not very far at all. All of that stuff was pretty centralized around the mall area of Fayetteville.
Holly's apartment sits along this busy stretch of road just 5 miles outside the gates of Fort Bragg, where she worked as an Army nurse.
And her apartment building was actually the first building that you come to on the right.
Down here, 146.
Yep, 146. Well, as soon as we got here, we could tell, you know, looking through the back window, that place had been burned. She, of course, was not in there.
What's the first thing you saw when you walked in?
Well, I think a better question would be what was the first thing that I smelled, and that was gasoline. And there was so much gasoline in the apartment poured on the floor and on the carpet that as my partner and I would walk, it would kind of gush up next to our chute. So the fire department was really concerned about they said the spark could light this whole place up.
Why was it the building was not completely burnt to the ground?
Anybody can strike a match, but you got to know, you got to have enough air. With this amount of gasoline that was poured in the apartment, they didn't have enough air. They should have left the door open to have vented it more, and we would have had a more complete fire.
So this was an arson, but not a very talented arson.
Exactly.
So in 2008, I was a forensic technician dispatched via radio to respond out to an apartment fire at that time. I initially just started taking photographs around. There's a certain level of emotion that teeters on excitement and anxiousness because you're kind of afraid of what you might find.
By the front door, investigators discovered Holly's purse, still holding her ID, credit cards, her keys, and phone. For the detectives, the abandoned belongings are a red flag.
Typically, being a woman myself, if I were to go off somewhere, my purse and at least my personal belongings, credit cards, things of that nature would have come with me.
As investigators push deeper into the apartment, the kitchen reveals its own disturbing clue.
I noticed that there was a knife block sitting over on the counter, and several knives were missing from the knife block.
We couldn't find any of those knives like in a drawer or maybe dirty in the sink. They were missing from that house altogether.
We knew that could have been used as some sort of a weapon, so we certainly took note of that as well.
The missing knives raised the grim possibility that Holly was stabbed. There were also signs of blood spatter in her bedroom, along with another disturbing piece of evidence.
Probably one of the most alarming things about the master bedroom is, one, the carpet, the large amount of carpet that had been cut from around the door frame. It was almost, carved precisely to cut out a specific shape. So all of the bedding had been removed to include the pillowcases. So that was a little out of the norm as well, of a home that had been lived in where there was absolutely no bed linen on it at all.
Then eagle-eyed detectives spot something easy to miss, a single bullet hole in the closet door.
Something potentially could have occurred right in front of the closet.
Amid the devastation, one piece of evidence survived, and it would become the investigation's biggest clue.
I just happened to notice an odd scrap of paper in the middle of the hallway. Then once I uncrumpled the ball of paper, I notified Detective Locklear that there was a message on it.
A note survived the fire.
This letter.
We just thought it might have just been some trash, some refuse, whatever, until we unraveled it.
Can you read that?
It says something to the effect of, she shot herself, and I tried to make it look like an accident.
The note, scrawled in jagged handwriting and unsigned, hinted at Holly's fate, but raised more questions than answers.
It wasn't consistent with what we were seeing, but obviously it was an important piece of evidence that we took note of.
Was the note a confession or a calculated attempt to throw investigators off the trail?
Even the smallest details are something that it may be insignificant now, but down the line it might be one of the most critical pieces of evidence that you have.
When Holly's father arrives at the scene, the evidence looks grim, and yet he holds out hope.
I believed Holly was alive. I said, I'm going to work to try to get her back here, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to try to get her back.
The thought was that she still could be alive and that we could find her, but we knew this also could end very tragically.
And with an active duty soldier missing, the U.S. Army search and rescue mission kicks into high gear.
I mean, the Army's got a missing soldier, and that's a big deal.
We'll dedicate as many people as we have because this is one of our own. It's a sister.
This young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
But where was Holly? And is there a hidden secret in this last photo taken of her before she vanished? We're now inside Fort Bragg, North Carolina, about 250 square miles, about 50,000 active duty soldiers. Fort Bragg is a city unto itself, sprawling, relentless, and brimming with power. Soldiers here often call it the center of the military universe. And when 2nd Lieutenant Holly James goes missing, the U.S. Army mobilizes fast, launching an all-out search, working around the clock to find answers.
Good to see you.
Special Agent Al Diaz is the man in charge of the Army's Criminal Investigation Division at Fort Bragg. What do you remember when the news came out that Holly was missing?
Just like any time a service member shows up missing, there's just that natural sense of concern. And then what we can do to help local law enforcement find her.
Does it become 24 hours a day?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to put as much effort and resources to it until you find the individual. Are they just missing? Did they succumb to foul play? Like, you just don't know.
Fort Bragg sits like a fortress. At its heart is Womack Medical Center, where Holly worked as an Army nurse. With 13 access points in and out, CID's task was clear: reconstruct Holly's every step in the days before she vanished. Adam Armstrong is a special agent with CID.
All right, so you get the call from the police about what was happening that afternoon.
So when we get that, we'll immediately get a picture of her out. so we can start working on the reward posters and all that. And then we start figuring out, okay, how can we start putting together elements to go out and start searching?
Tell us where we're going.
Right now we're just heading back to the one side of base where Holly was last seen.
Investigators learned that just 2 nights before she was reported missing, Holly had been seen at a late-night softball game on base.
So this is the last place that she was
Right here on the
seen.
right-hand side.
So this was the 8th, 2 days before they discovered that she was missing. This is where she was.
And so a sergeant first class had invited her out to come watch. And then after the game, she actually approached him. He actually helped out a lot. Played a big role in understanding the last time that she was seen.
This is the last photo of Holly taken just before she disappeared.
He said she was happy that night, bubbly, and just seemed to be in good spirits. With the cell phone analysis, and they were able to identify that she did leave the base and she did make it home.
Something had happened to Holly. You just felt like you had to get here?
Had to come.
While Army investigators combed the base, Holly's father, Jesse James, launches his own search for answers.
I had to get to Fort Bragg, so I had to think about how I was going to get sort of control of the situation.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter, to your sister.
Absolutely. He was on a mission, and 10 seconds of hearing that his daughter was missing, he wasn't going to let it go, nor should he.
Thinking about my grandfather dropping everything to fly to Fayetteville and find her, that's a man who loves his daughter.
And it shows how loving and caring he is and how deeply he loves his family.
The thought occurred to me that I'm going to go to the bank and see if she had any charges on her checking account or credit card since she disappeared. And I got up and drove over to the bank. I said, are there any recent charges in the past day to her credit card or her checking account?
A bank attorney confirms that there had been activity on Holly's account, charges dated the very day she vanished. So there was hope.
Oh, let's see. I walked away stepping lightly, as quickly as I could, called Detective Locklear, and he almost hung up on me. He wanted to call that bank to get a warrant to get the checking account information.
But to Jesse's disappointment, what seems like a promising lead goes nowhere. It turns out those transactions were older ones, charges that had only just been cleared.
Took all the wind out of me and was right back where we started.
Desperate for answers, Jesse comes here to Holly's workplace at Womack Medical Center to try to retrace his daughter's footsteps. Yeah, so this is where she was, huh?
It is where she was. The morning after I got here, I just walked in and introduced myself, and I could just feel a shockwave go through the unit, you know, because they were experiencing it just like we were. She loved these people, and she loved the people she worked with. I could sense a presence here of Holly. I could see her just running the hall. She never walked slow. I could see her just rushing through these hallways, and I could feel that. And I thought, I just might be putting my feet where her feet were. And that affected me.
Days into the investigation, there is still no sign of Holly. But then an unexpected twist, a possible link to another female soldier who had also gone missing from Fort Bragg.
These mysterious letters come into the Fayetteville Observer as well as the Fayetteville Police Department.
CID said, look, we got a second female soldier that's missing and has possibly been harmed.
We wondered, could this be connected to Holly's case?
Are we dealing with a copycat here?
A disturbing letter, marked with a chilling symbol.
And there it is on that mirror in the lipstick.
And could there be a connection to Holly?
I'm like, I don't know, this has never happened. It's like something you see in a movie. When I left the crime scene, I didn't think that we would find her alive.
Summer 2008, Holly Lynn James has vanished. Teams of investigators search for clues in a burned-out apartment near Fort Bragg Army Base. But it turns out Holly's not the only female soldier in the area to go missing that June.
And right at the same time, there's 2 different investigations, also with soldiers, also females.
It's 2 females now. Both are in the military, and both of the situations are nothing about them is normal. It was getting interesting here at the Fayetteville Police Department.
About a month before Holly disappeared, another female soldier from Fort Bragg went missing. The police got a call saying that there was a strange odor coming out of this hotel, and that took a chilling turn.
A deceased person was located inside room 143. She was dressed in a bathing suit, almost as like she had just left the pool. And then when the maintenance guy found her, the water was still running in the bathtub.
She was submerged in the bathtub, and so there was water everywhere. There was actually a towel along the bottom edge of the door, so whoever had done it was thinking ahead. And so that way the water couldn't get out to alert anybody.
This room had been rented to a Megan Tuma. Megan was a soldier, an active duty soldier.
23-year-old Megan Tuma was a dental specialist who had been with the Army for 5 years. Her body was found in a hotel room June 21st. She was 7 months pregnant and may have been dead for days.
Megan Tuma had newly transferred to Fort Bragg from a military base in Germany. She was supposed to go to work, and she didn't show up for work. They did not notice that she was missing.
She's found on the 21st of June. The last time she was seen, I believe, was 15 June, and so there's about a 6-day gap. And then the hotel that she was staying in off post, she had one of those do not disturbs on. And so that's why she was in there for a lengthy time without anybody coming in.
So she was in an advanced state of decomposition. Some evidence of a struggle, some of what we believe to be blood, light blood transfer on the wall.
So she was murdered in that hotel.
The autopsy revealed she had been strangled. We flipped the switch in and it went to a homicide investigation. There was something else in the room, though, that made us really suspicious. The mirror outside the bathroom had a very large insignia drawn on it in lipstick. That insignia that was drawn there was the zodiac sign. A couple of days later, we get a letter through the mail from a person purporting to be somebody who is reenacting the Zodiac murders from the West Coast.
From 1968 to 1974, several newspapers in the San Francisco area received a series of anonymous letters from the self-proclaimed Zodiac killer who claimed credit for up to 37 murders. The 2007 movie Zodiac put one of America's biggest unsolved murder cases on the big screen.
It's unsigned except for a symbol. Is it me? Or does that look like a gun sign?
A letter has surfaced claiming the murder is a work of a serial killer.
Good morning, Robin. That letter certainly has gotten everyone's attention. In a twisted case with very few leads, police have been forced to pay particular attention to this letter sent to a local newspaper. The writer signed the letter with a symbol made famous by the infamous Zodiac killer of the 1960s.
The Fayetteville Observer received a letter, and this is what the letter said. I am responsible for the dead body that was found on Saturday, June 21st at 11:30 in room 143. I confess that I have killed many times before in several states, but now I will start using my role model signature.
We were sitting down in a meeting with CID about this exact letter when we got the call to go out to Holly's apartment. We were like, what is going on here? It's like something you see in a movie. The guy's trying to communicate with the police by way of mail.
And you're looking at the possibility this could be the same killer.
Of course, the same symbol is on the bottom of this letter that was written on the mirror in the hotel room, in the lipstick. So are we dealing with a copycat here?
We very much thought that it was a possibility these were connected. Was Holly this killer's next victim, which would have been just a couple of weeks after Megan Tuma's murder? So it was certainly of interest and of concern in the disappearance of Holly.
The public is demanding answers. Now people are making phone calls, they're calling the chief, the city council. Hey, is there a serial killer in Fayetteville?
But as investigators dig deeper into the Megan Tuma case, they begin to question that serial killer theory. Detectives are able to uncover evidence that her murder might have been a highly personal one. And the trail leads to someone very close to her.
She had began a relationship with an individual and she had become pregnant as a result of that relationship. Well, it turns out he was married. He was in the military on the same base in Germany that Megan was assigned to. And we did a search warrant on his house, and you wouldn't believe it, he was actually actively taking a crime scene class at a local college here in Fayetteville.
Authorities begin to close in on the man that they think might be responsible for Megan's murder. And in that parallel investigation, detectives also uncover evidence that Holly's disappearance also might not have been random, that it too could have been a highly personal crime.
It was obvious that something terrible had happened to Holly, and we were fairly certain that it was someone close to her that had done it.
Could a woman connected to John Wimunc with a possible grudge against Holly be responsible for her disappearance?
She was a threat?
She was a threat.
Two women stationed at Fort Bragg have met with tragedy. Fayetteville, North Carolina is a town on edge.
I think it's horrible what happened.
Stop in your tracks.
The community was scared. It sort of put a lot of pressure on us as well. The public is wanting to know, what are we doing about it?
But then a huge development in the Megan Tuma case as Fayetteville police close in on the person they suspect is responsible for her murder.
Police in North Carolina are expected to offer details today about the death of a pregnant Fort Bragg soldier.
Who was it that was ultimately found to be the murderer in this case?
The person that was responsible for taking Megan Tuma's life was Edgar Patino. He was the father of her child that she was carrying.
And then the person claiming to have killed her had sent letters to the newspaper and to the police claiming to be like the Zodiac killer.
We were able to prove that the letters that were sent were typed at our suspect's house by a typewriter in our suspect's room.
Edgar was also married at the time, and he had killed Megan Tuma because she was pregnant with a child, and yet he was still married and he wanted to remain with his wife.
And he's the one that set that crime scene up. He's the one that drew that Zodiac sign on the mirror.
Patino was playing games with the cops, trying to be too clever for his own good and lead them astray, and I don't think they ever really bought it.
So at that point, we had ruled out that the killer of Megan Tuma was also the killer or person responsible for the disappearance of Holly.
So now the race is on to find the culprit behind Holly's disappearance. A review of the evidence at the crime scene has investigators convinced that Holly knew her assailant.
There was no evidence that there was an intruder who had forced their way into the home through the door, through a window, or something like that.
We never thought that some stranger walking down Morganton Road just decided to peep through this girl's window and do all of this. We were fairly certain that the person that had done all these things knew her and that she knew that person.
Did it seem to indicate that this may have been done by somebody who knew the details of that apartment?
Holly either let that person in or that person made his way into the apartment by some other means, possibly by a key.
Detectives believe that whoever was in Holly's apartment also tried to cover up evidence of what happened there.
We found actually a carpet cleaner, and we tested that carpet cleaner, and it tested positive for blood on a preliminary test. Just from what I'd seen, the reaction we got from the luminol, the amount of carpet that was cut from the floor in the bedroom, the bed sheets and clothing and stuff had been taken off the bed. All those were indicators for me that there had been at least some measure of crime scene cleanup that had tried to, to take place.
Whoever did this might have tried to cover their tracks, but that crumpled letter was left behind.
It appeared that whoever wrote that note was inside the apartment when this terrible thing happened to Holly, but it does not identify who they were or what their relationship to Holly was.
The person that wrote this letter is the person that tried to burn that apartment, which is the person that knows where Holly's at. That's the way I was looking at it.
At the time of Holly's disappearance, we knew she was going through a tumultuous time in her life.
As investigators look into Holly's personal life for clues, they learned that about 8 months before she went missing, Holly had filed a request for a temporary restraining order against an ex-girlfriend of her husband named Lindsay. In the filing, Holly alleges that for 18 months, the defendant has continuously posted pictures of herself and my spouse on the internet with comments directed at me and claims I have changed my phone number 6 times.
Holly would always call Lindsay John's little girlfriend. I think there was a lot of yelling, a lot of swearing. Holly was getting exhausted because of the bombardment. I think she was just at the end of her rope.
Lindsay denied harassing Holly. In fact, she tells investigators Holly was the one harassing her, and she was never served with Holly's request for a restraining order.
She was considered a threat. That's why we wanted to look at her, because we had to consider her.
But when investigators talk to her, she denies having anything to do with Holly's disappearance. They also discover she had an alibi on the date Holly disappeared. What did she say?
She provided a full breakdown of her timeline leading up to the disappearance of Holly.
She was not in Fayetteville the night Holly went missing.
So there was no evidence whatsoever to charge her for what happened to Holly.
She had no criminal culpability in this at all.
While Lindsay is fully cleared, investigators say she provides them with some revealing information about John Wimunc's activities the night of Holly's disappearance.
She actually told us about a phone call that she had with John, and John said that he was actually on his way to Fayetteville. So that was a key piece of evidence for us.
When she called him, he was like, I'm on my way, I can't do this anymore.
Why would he reveal this to her?
That's what we had to look at.
As investigators learn more about John Wimunc, they decide to bring him in again to answer questions about his wife's disappearance.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on, okay? This is my wife. What the will come with my wife?
That's what we're all trying to find out.
And a shocking discovery in the middle of nowhere will bring yet another Marine into the frame.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoe. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoe? How am I supposed to believe anything that you say? For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids.
Let you know that everything's okay.
I'll talk to you later, baby.
Tell them it's a Chevy.
It's a Chevy.
This young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
What's going on with my wife? You know what I mean?
That's what we're all trying to find out.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck.
Today is the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
If you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence, you could get away with it.
He's like, what's the worst you've ever done? He said the worst thing I've ever done is kill somebody.
He carved her name into a bullet and told her, this one's for you.
It's come to Jesus time. Now you tell me the rest of it. Tell me the rest of it.
For many years, I woke up at 4 a.m., went to the basement so I could cry, and called out for my daughter. When I had contacted you, I had no idea it would be so complicated. You stole my daughter from me.
Holly was a second lieutenant nurse corps officer. She was assigned to Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Bragg. All of her patients loved her. Her coworkers loved her.
That morning of the 10th of July, that was the first indication that something strange had happened.
She didn't show up for work, and she wouldn't answer any of the calls from her friends. And for them, that was a big deal.
Her coworkers there became concerned, so they went to her apartment and found that it had been set on fire.
But what the scene did tell us was that something horrible had happened inside that apartment.
You just don't know the full extent of what has occurred, but you're also kind of afraid of what you might find.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter.
He was on a mission and he wasn't gonna let it go.
I was living like in two different worlds, I think. One believing that she's alive, another that she's dead.
So this young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
There's a lot of pressure on us.
It had been 3 days since Holly James had disappeared. Police had taken a close look at John Wimunc's former girlfriend, but investigators discovered that she had an alibi for the night Holly went missing and was nowhere near Fayetteville.
What was her demeanor when you were talking to her, investigating?
She was scared that she had been drawn into this mess.
She was ruled out as a suspect in the investigation, but she had provided information that was helpful.
Investigators say the former girlfriend is able to provide them with an inside look at the relationship between John and Holly.
They had been married for approximately a year, but towards the end of this 1-year marriage, it had become rather complicated between them.
Holly's brother, Bo, says the phone calls between John and Holly were becoming increasingly volatile.
He would be on the phone and then he would be just screaming at her.
You're watching him scream and you could hear your sister Holly reacting to that. What was she doing?
Crying, telling him to stop. And I felt like, well, I need to say something, but at the same time I thought, well, this is a married couple. I thought about if somebody tried doing that to me, it might upset me.
As investigators looked deeper into their relationship, they learned from friends close to Holly that John seemed insecure, that he held a lower rank than his wife.
I think it was something of a resentment that she was a woman and she outranked him.
John Wimunc was a corporal?
Yes.
So his level of skills was pretty high end?
I would say it was good. He's still honing his skills and still learning.
Her being an officer, she outranked him, and he would always tell her, "You're not a real officer," things like that, just putting her down.
We had a non-commissioned officer married to an Army second lieutenant. It just doesn't happen. That's the first time in my whole career that I had seen something like that.
According to Holly's friends, it was clear that John's attitude and frequent yelling directed towards his wife and distance between their bases was putting a strain on the relationship.
I didn't talk to you, so I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
They lived 2.5 hours apart. Eventually their marriage became estranged.
She had put up with the emotional abuse, and I think she finally realized that it wasn't going to get any better.
And as investigators continued to dig, they begin to realize that the alleged abuse may have been more than emotional.
We had done a number of interviews with her friends, some of the ladies that worked with her at Womack. First thing they told us was how violent John had been in the past.
Armed with these insights into Holly and John's marriage, investigators head to Camp Lejeune to talk with him.
This is where the Marines are. They have a lot of questions for Holly's husband, John Wimunc, about where he was and what he did that night.
NCIS agent brought him in from the command, interviewed him just to try and figure out what was going on and what he knew about Holly's whereabouts.
Hey, John, here's my guidebook.
Hey, John.
How you doing, sir?
You set this hot coffee down, buddy.
How you doing?
John, Jeff Locklear from Fayetteville.
He expressed that there were concerns for his wife, that he did not know where she was.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on, okay? This is my wife. Right, everybody knows that. That is my apartment. What the is going on with my wife? You know what I mean?
That's what we're all trying to find out, man.
After a brief conversation, the agent conducting the interview noticed a smell of alcohol, and that Corporal Wimunc was likely intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol.
I have been drinking.
Okay.
And I don't want the things that I say to be turned around.
I don't want to talk with you now that I can smell the odor of alcohol in you. I don't want to talk to you about legal stuff while that's even a question in my mind. Let's handle all that tomorrow.
So he's free to go. He's not in custody or whatever.
So what did you learn in this investigation here?
It gives me a chance to look him in his eye. It gives me a chance to smell him. There's a difference between regular sweating and stress sweat. You can smell that guy.
Really? So you knew at that point?
Yeah, he ain't telling me everything, right?
In any type of case where we have a missing person, we have suspicious circumstances, I mean, the spouse is obviously a person of interest. NCIS will immediately look at them and trying to establish, are they related or are they unrelated? Either way.
We continue to gather evidence, to interview people, really focus in on John's movements and whereabouts around July 9th.
But as investigators focus their attention on John Wimunc, they are also conducting a canvass of Holly's apartment complex and get a tip that is about to pay off in a big way.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck. It gave us something to go on. It was a turning point in the investigation.
As investigators continue their urgent search for any leads linked to Holly's disappearance, they get their first big break in the case at her apartment complex.
We began interviewing neighbors. Did anybody see anything? Did anybody hear anything?
We interviewed one young lady, and she said that the night that apartment was burned, she was outside walking her dog. And she said that she saw a guy running through the shadows. She said he was purposely trying to stay in the shadows, and that he had dark clothing on, and that he was a white male. She did distinctly remember him running out to a truck.
It gave us something to go on.
Investigators talked to anyone involved in Holly's life to find out more details about that truck and who it may have belonged to, including at Camp Lejeune, where she often spent time with her husband.
As the police canvassed and interviewed people at Camp Lejeune, they found out that a young Marine named Kyle had been asking around about borrowing a pickup truck to help a friend move some things, and that was in the time period that Holly had disappeared.
Kyle is in fact Lance Corporal Kyle Alden, and investigators discover the identity of the man who he said he was helping to move. It was none other than Holly's husband, John Wimunc.
This became a very important piece of information, so we wanted to talk to Kyle and see if we could connect the dots.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, sir.
Hey, I'm Locklear.
Alden is brought in for an interview at Camp Lejeune with Detective Jeff Locklear.
This apartment, we got a fire at an apartment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know who owns that apartment? Without me even getting the specifics, go ahead and tell me who owns the apartment in Fayetteville. Who used to live there?
John Wimunc.
John Wimunc. And you know John?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you had all this evidence. You go to interview Alden, so you treat him like your buddy, to be somebody who you want to be nice to.
Never had to raise my voice to him. We're cussing and yelling at him. Weren't accusing him of anything, just going through and stuff, and kind of set the stage for him to begin to let his guard down some.
And you guys get to Fayetteville.
And you went and picked up the stuff?
We get to Fayetteville, walked to the back of the apartment building, grabbed the grill, left it over the railing, and put it in the truck.
So you guys didn't go inside his old apartment?
No, sir.
Kyle Alden tells Locklear that he and Wimunc went to Holly's apartment but could not get inside. He then says that they left. He went back home to go sleep with his wife, but it turns out that Locklear had already spoken to Alden's wife.
She says, I don't know what the heck's going on, okay? But not only that, but he's telling me to cover him. Okay?
He was lying about large elements of the story.
This is true.
At this point of the interview, Locklear decides to dramatically up the ante with Alden.
For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help you. That life raft's out there. I need for you to grab it, and I need for you to hold on to it. If you don't get it right now, okay, tomorrow is going to be too late.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, for God's sake, son, tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Now's the time. Yesterday was history.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow's a mystery. Today is what we're dealing with. Today is the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
Yes, sir.
He seems to be holding back. We think he knows more than he's telling us.
Did John hurt Holly?
I have no idea.
Do you think John hurt Holly?
Kinda, but I hope not.
I do too. I would love for Holly to call me right now. That ain't gonna happen.
But as Detective Locklear is turning the screws on Kyle Alden, the interview is suddenly interrupted.
And somebody came and knocked on the interview door.
Go outside and talk to the boss a minute.
If somebody's stopping the interview, the building better be on fire. But somebody did.
A 911 call has come in from a forestry service in nearby Onslow County.
Hey, what? Yes, you heard me right.
That could lead to happiness or heartache.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
It had been 4 days since Lieutenant Holly James had vanished, and at this point, John Wimunc has emerged as the prime suspect in the disappearance of his wife, a fact not lost on his commanding officer, Colonel Kirk Cordova.
The prime suspect was a Marine, and it was one of my Marines.
And given the reputation that he had, did you think at that time that maybe he is somebody that could be guilty of this?
Yes, given his nature and the fact that he's somewhat of a hothead and wanted to be in control all the time. As soon as I heard Wimunc was our prime suspect, I assigned somebody to him and make sure he didn't leave, didn't run, so we knew where he was at all times.
While investigators methodically build their case against Wimunc, Jesse James decides to take a more direct approach, confronting him in person. What did he say exactly to you?
And I drove out to Camp Lejeune, and he was with like 3 friends. I saw some arrogance, saw that he was drinking. I just leaned into him very, very close. And I said, John, if you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence behind, and no one but you knows it, there's a sliver of chance that you could get away with it. But I said, if one person knows, you're gonna die for the crime.
What'd you read in his face?
Fear. Fear that all the arrogance was gone. If I'd have had a gun that day, I would have killed him.
I want you to tell me what happened. I gotta find Holly. For God's sakes, where's Holly at?
I do not know.
Okay.
Police continue to try and chip away at Wimunc's fellow Marine, Kyle Alden, but if he knows anything about Holly's disappearance, he's not giving up the goods.
Investigators knew he wasn't telling the truth and that he was hiding something.
He was stonewalling the investigation.
Oh yeah. I was surprised that he could hold out as long as he held out.
So he was in the middle of an interview, and suddenly some information came in that something was found at this field about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
NCIS received a phone call. What we discovered was that the North Carolina Forestry Service had responded to a fire in a wooded area in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina.
So when those guys got to the scene and they go over there, it was pretty clear that there's a body in a shallow grave that looks like someone has tried to burn. They put the call in to the sheriff's office.
We're down here on this fire. We need Sheriff Fulton down here for possible burned up body. Did what? Yes, you heard me right.
When they called you, they knew it was a body.
They said, we believe we found a burial site, and this might be the missing female from Fayetteville.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl? And obviously, that hit really close to home. It was a sad day in that we knew what had ultimately happened to Holly.
The authorities shifted their focus here to Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. This is about 130 miles away where Holly was living in her apartment, only about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
If you were looking to hide a body, it would be a good place to do it. It's a very remote spot.
We drove out there to the crime scene, to the burial site.
You saw a body there, a burnt body.
I saw human remains rolled up in what appeared to be an air mattress. There was a hatchet in the burn pit with the remains. I saw a number of knives that looked like they came out of a butcher block.
Were those the ones that were also identified that we saw in the pictures inside her apartment that day when it was found out that she was missing?
Right, so those knives that were found with the body matched the style, make, and type that were missing from Holly's apartment.
Best way I could explain it to you is it was an oval-shaped 6-inch hole in the ground, long enough, to place her body.
So she was not buried, she was just laid there for the fire. And then how did they ignite it?
Gasoline.
Just poured it all around the area. Jesse James is at his son's house at Camp Lejeune when a detective from Fayetteville Police calls him with the news.
And of course I said, let's go. I'm going out there, to see the remains. And he said, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should come out there with us. And I said, well, I don't care really what you think at this point. I'm going out where my child's remains were found. And he says, well, let me just try to make it a little clearer. There isn't much to see. He said the body had been burning for days.
I know that when it came to finding her, there was a lot of love poured into it, and that is something that I really appreciate, that people who didn't necessarily know her still felt the need to find her and loved her as deeply as they did.
An autopsy would confirm that the dismembered remains found in the pit were Holly's. The cause of death was a single gunshot wound to the head.
During the initial crime scene process, one of the things that kind of stood out to me was a small hole in the closet door of the master bedroom. I didn't know why, I couldn't explain it. Sure enough, as soon as we cut that door into, a piece of bullet fragment fell out. So my suspicions initially were correct, that it looks like she was laying down on the floor in the bedroom. The round was fired into her head, it exited her head, it hit the concrete floor, ricocheted up, and rested in the closet door.
One of the critical pieces that you need is the physical body of the person that was killed, and we had that now. And so the first thing we wanted to do is go talk to Kyle Alden again and ask him what really happened that day.
But would this tough Marine finally crack?
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now.
Investigators have finally discovered the remains of Holly Lynn James at a site deep in a pine forest. But Kyle Alden denies knowing anything about what became of her.
Have you guys found her body yet?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, we will find her. All right. I promise you that.
As the questioning continues, Detective Locklear decides to see if some psychological persuasion can get Alden to open up.
And then I guess that's the whole crew.
Photos tend to help get people in their feelings, and that's the reason I introduced some photos in the interview.
So now you're showing him the pictures of these two adorable kids.
Mm-hmm. He tried to not look at the photos. Every time I would catch him kind of leading off, not looking at the photos, I said, no, look at her and her kids. And that pressure really worked with him.
Finally, Alden starts revealing details about the day of Holly's disappearance. He tells detectives that John Wimunc called to ask if he could borrow a truck.
I told him I can make a couple phone calls and see if I can get a truck. He's like, okay, I'll meet you in Clinton.
What is this?
Kyle Alden and John Wimunc stopped at a Shell gas station in Clinton, North Carolina, which is about halfway between here and Camp Lejeune.
And then we go into the gas station. He's like, you want something to drink? It's like, okay. And then we go back outside. We talk a little bit. He's like, what's the worst thing you've ever done? He said, the worst thing I've ever done is killed somebody.
What do you think he means by this?
I do not know. I did not want to know.
What else does he say?
He's like, you can't say anything about this, but I need your help doing something.
Okay, and did you ask him what he means?
No.
Are you worried at this point?
I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of hesitant. What could he have done? Why does he not want me to tell anybody?
The dam's beginning to break, right? The information's beginning to come forward.
Alden says they leave the Shell station, and about an hour later, the pair reaches their destination, Holly's apartment in Fayetteville. Here, Alden changes his story, now saying that the two did, in fact, go into the apartment.
You both get out of the truck.
And then we walk down the sidewalk, back over to his apartment. Then I come into the master bedroom, and the carpet's torn out.
I just don't think that he was prepared when he arrived at her apartment for what he saw.
So you guys carried that stuff out to the other truck?
Yes.
What do you do next?
We go back in for the blue bag thing, and then we just pick it up and carry it.
How much did the bag weigh?
Probably about 150 pounds.
What do you think was in the bag?
Thought crossed my mind. It's like, the worst thing he's ever done is killed somebody. We're in his house. There was a blood spot on the wall. There's a blood spot on the bed. There's a blood spot on the floor. What the hell happened? Am I carrying out a body?
He got really nervous talking about what he saw when he first arrived at the apartment. His carotid artery, you can watch that in a person, and when they really get nervous, it's almost like there's a little small green tree frog right in their throat. It's just throbbing.
We drive around for a little bit, and then he says, hey, we need to go to Walmart's.
Then a brazen act is caught on video.
When they got to Walmart and parked, they actually went to the bed of the truck, picked her body up, took it, put it in the cab of the truck, closed the door, locked it, went inside and shopped.
We grabbed 2 jugs of Shell oil.
They pay for the items at the register and head back to the truck.
They then came back out and removed her body from the interior of the truck and put it back in the bed. We retrieved that video. That was a really key piece of evidence for us that they had the callousness to do that.
Alden says the pair then head back towards Camp Lejeune, stopping along the way to pick up Wimunc's car. And then from there, they each drive to a secluded spot.
So what happens?
Then I continue to put the bags in the tote in the trunk, the big bag in the backseat of the car, and then I take off.
Alden says he then continues home, solo, and that was the end of his involvement.
Is there any details that we missed this time?
Not that I can think of right now.
But Detective Locklear has a hunch that Alden has more to tell. Could bringing him back for one more day of questioning finally break the case fully open?
The next day, when I walked back in that interview room, I had my chest poked out and my tail feathers were high because I was armed with information that I didn't have when I first went in there. And I let him know it.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoes. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoes?
I have no idea.
I went where Holly's at. You have been lying to me since we met one another, right? But I don't understand why.
Sensing that Alden is still holding back, Detective Jeff Locklear, who happens to be a preacher's son, invokes a higher authority.
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now. Now you tell me the rest of it. Tell me the rest of it.
Will that appeal get Alden to see the light? Will he finally tell the truth about what really happened to Holly?
I tell him, this stuff is scaring me. I don't know what to do.
In the NCIS building at Camp Lejeune, it's been 3 long days of questioning for Marine Kyle Alden. And it's at this point he finally tells investigators what he claims to know about John Wimunc's involvement in the death of his wife, Holly.
He called me, it was around 6:30. He said that he'd been there all morning and all afternoon. He said, I killed her. I didn't ask him how he killed her. I just said, why?
You have to be careful in situations like this. He's telling me a story, and if I encourage him and it's not correct, you go down the wrong road here.
Told me that she didn't die right away, so he had to hit her again. And I told him I don't want to hear that.
But he still kept telling you, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He's like, the look in her eye, he'd never seen anything like it, the look in her eye.
Kyle Alden then says he and John Wimunc are not yet done at the apartment.
He told me he had to burn the apartment and he had to let it burn for a really long time because he wanted to try to get rid of all the evidence.
They had devised a plan and made an agreement that they would drive her remains back to the area of Camp Lejeune and find somewhere at that point to bury the remains.
Investigators say they choose a place familiar to Alden. Alden was living not far from here. How far away was he?
As the crow flies, about a half a mile. The reason they picked this area was he was familiar with it because he had been back here doing some target shooting. That's how he even knew that this place existed. I had enough probable cause at that time to charge him with the arson and the conspiracy to commit the arson. That allowed me to arrest him, Alden, and arrest Wimunc and get my hands on him and get him back to Fayetteville.
With both men in custody, the focus now switches back to John Wimunc and what possible motive could he have to kill his wife? Investigators believe the answer to that question lies in what they were told about John's alleged violent treatment of Holly.
The first time we really talked about it is when her and John Wimunc got in the fight, and she showed up at my house. Her hair was a mess. She had scratches and claw marks all over her back.
We came out a couple of weeks on vacation to visit Holly, a couple of weeks before she was murdered, and I met him again once there. I just really didn't have a sense that there was anything until she began talking about a divorce.
Authorities come to learn that Holly filed for a protective order against John Wimunc in May, less than 2 months before she was killed, in which she alleged a chilling encounter with her husband.
We discovered that there had been an incident in the prior months leading up to this where he had threatened suicide and also held a gun to her head.
To her head?
Correct.
Threatening to kill her?
Yes.
The night that Holly left John at the apartment, she was kind of telling me everything that happened, that John had threatened her. He carved her name into a bullet and told her, "This one's for you."
The fact that he was in the military and went as extreme as he did makes it so much worse, because his main priority should have been protecting her. That was his main job, was to protect a mother and a wife, and he couldn't, and he wouldn't do that.
After Holly did not show up for a court hearing on the protective order, the case was dismissed.
You need anything to drink? Glass of water, sir. You want some water? Fair enough.
Despite the growing amount of evidence against John Wimunc implicating him in Holly's murder, Wimunc still will not talk.
Armed with the information that Kyle had given investigators, they gave John Wimunc an opportunity to come clean and tell what happened. He said he wasn't going to talk with them without an attorney present.
Okay, stand up. Follow me out here.
He was then charged with first-degree murder, second-degree arson, as well as conspiracy to commit second-degree arson.
Corporal John Wimunc is accused of killing his wife, Second Lieutenant Holly Wimunc, a nurse stationed at Fort Bragg.
My client is presumed to be innocent. We don't want this case tried in the media. We want it to be tried in a court of law.
Taking a case to trial, there's always risk involved. In this case, we had very good information from Kyle, and the thought was that Kyle would testify at trial as to what happened, and then we would put all the circumstantial evidence together to point to the fact of what John Wimunc had done that night.
While John Wimunc pleads not guilty to all charges in connection with the arson and his wife's death, Kyle Alden is now cooperating with authorities. He agrees to take Detective Locklear through the night of Holly's murder at the scene of the crime.
It was very telling to bring him back to the spot. He had never been here before, right before that night. This is only the second time he had ever been here, and he could still remember where he parked.
I parked right there besides the Chrysler.
It was worth taking him back out there and having him tell it from the viewpoint of the guy that was there the night this happened.
And from there, you guys went to...
we went back out towards Jacksonville Smiths Ferry area.
Did he give an indication of why it is that he did what he did, what Alden did?
The only explanation that I'm aware of is that Wimunc, being another Marine, asked him for help, and he agreed.
You're a Marine, would you do that?
Absolutely not.
After he confessed, Kyle Alden was charged, and he ultimately pleaded guilty.
Kyle Alden was sentenced to approximately 5 years in prison.
And at a hearing for John Wimunc, Holly's brother Bo sees the man he once called a friend, now accused of killing his sister.
So we stood up when Wimunc came in, and he didn't even look. He didn't turn around.
Ultimately, in 2010, John Wimunc pled guilty to first-degree murder.
John Wimunc is sentenced to life in prison for arson, conspiracy to commit arson, and Holly's murder.
The district attorney called me and he said, "I have Wimunc here. His parents have convinced him to take a plea of life without parole." I said, "You just take the plea and send him to prison." So that's what they did.
Did you hope there was a death penalty?
I personally wanted it, yeah. It's a different opinion than my dad's.
With John Wimunc now behind bars, Jesse James still has questions.
Did you expect he would write back to you?
Will this father finally get answers from his daughter's killer? She was honored in many ways.
It was a lavish funeral, and I did it on purpose because Holly was a big personality. The police in the community from several communities came, and the Patriot Guard. It looked like a state funeral.
Dignitary.
Dignitary, yeah. And that's what I wanted for Holly.
What was it like then to be at a funeral like that?
It's heartbreaking. And I just uncontrollably cried. It was awful. It just in so many ways.
You put them together. The man that you introduced to your sister ultimately killed her.
Right. It's part of what haunts me for a long part of my life, absolutely.
But that's looking back. Nobody can ever predict something that they already learned.
But once you go through something, it's really hard to take it away. Pretending it didn't happen is hard, but coming to terms with it is even harder.
Sometimes I think every time I take a step here, maybe I'm taking a step in a place she has stepped. And that gives me a sense of presence.
Here in the hallway of Womack Army Medical Center, where Holly once worked, her memory stands eternal, a silent testament to a life that will not be forgotten.
What does that say down there?
In memory of Second Lieutenant Holly James, for her joy, her service, and her support of mothers and babies.
Well, she was loved.
Yes, she was.
The pain of losing a daughter never fades, and neither do the unanswered questions.
So after all these years, you still want to know more?
Yeah, I'd like to know more.
Recently, Jesse made the difficult decision to reach out to John Wimunc, the man who murdered his daughter, through an online prisoner website.
John, both my son Jesse and I carry no anger toward you, but only grief for the loss of Holly. The level of grief we carry leaves no room for you. To my surprise, I did receive a response to my letter. The response goes like this: "Thank you for reaching out to me. You are entitled to answers to which I will give them to you as best I can. I hope this will provide some closure for all parties involved."
Did you expect he would write back to you?
I thought he would. It took a long time, and the return letter went into the things like, yeah, we need to talk.
But rather than taking responsibility, Wimunc outlines a process centered on his own terms and not on the needs of Jesse.
Even in that letter that he wrote, there's no apology. He does not care about what he did. He only cares about what's happening to him.
You are now communicating with the man who murdered your daughter. If you were to talk to him in person, would that be something that would be somewhat helpful to you?
I think being in the same room would have a negative impact on me. John, I can assure you that I have no interest in engaging in restorative justice or any sense of closure with you. How could you possibly restore 17 years of life without Holly? I fought to live a life of joy because I didn't want to be a victim of John Wimunc too.
So you've never been there?
Never been there.
Would you want to go there?
At this point, I think I would like to do that.
Years after his daughter was discovered here, Jesse James visits the sacred, hallowed ground for the first time. Not just to face where Holly's body was abandoned, but to honor her memory.
Not only for myself, but I'd like to represent my family and her friends that did not get to see her again.
What do you think about now?
I think that I miss my protector. She was always the big sister.
Today, those who loved Holly keep her memory alive, remembering her as the devoted mother and dedicated soldier she always strived to be.
What would you like the world to remember about Holly?
I think she should be remembered for trying to give so much. My sister loved protecting the people she cared about.
Got the same smile too, right there. I want people to remember her as a really good mother with the time she had.
I am very proud of who she was. A patriot is someone who goes above and beyond, and that's what she did, no matter what.
Isn't she sweet?
She put everything above herself. And I don't think there's anything more patriotic than that.
The life of a true patriot cut short. In the years since his daughter's murder, Jesse James has become an advocate in the fight against domestic violence, hoping, David, to make a difference.
After completing his sentence, Kyle Alden was released from prison. Neither he nor John Wimunc are members of the Marine Corps any longer. That is our program for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us at 2020 and ABC News, good night.